We have people hiding in your beauty, distorting your makeup, trying to prevent your people from finding their happiness in the pursuit of you. Sometimes can't find the consistencies within the Constitution. Their construct wants to erase our contribution and label us as cons in the name of it. They say slavery is abolished except for the convicted felon. Most of us have never seen a gavel swing. We are not dummies. Our bodies should never be used to crash test bullets in the name of justice, democracy, equality. I've seen this nation cry like the hardest of rainfalls. But the days are only brighter as we see the rainbow complete the melting pot. So we always should be joyful, jubilant, and gay. That's the only way to transition as a people. As the birth child of the Constitution, you know that gender equality is promoting welfare for all people, democracy. Your name is more than just a free vote. It's the freedom to have a choice, for a woman to choose when a child should exit the sovereign state of her body. That should not be his bipartisan argument. The only voice that actually matters is hers, democracy. Democracy, life. Some of us are not as privileged as others, but our blood and bones are still sewn in the fabric of the American flag.
You're listening to the Tom Ficklin Show on WNHH-LP 103.5 FM, your home for community radio.
Good morning, everyone. And Harry, thanks for playing that at the inauguration this past Monday for our Mayor Justin Elicker and alders and Board of Ed person that was elected. There's a New Haven poet with the first year that New Haven has selected a New Haven poet, and Charmant Influence, that was his poem on democracy. And Jamila Hokanson is with us today, our guest, but I wanted Jamila to play that, and I'm going to play that pretty much at the top of all of my shows between now and November, because regardless of the guest that I'm talking with, whether it's a domestic guest or someone that's representing international affairs, this issue of democracy, in my mind, we're on the precipice of what does truly democracy mean. So I'm just kind of trying to get over my angst as we approach November, and just kind of share the thought that this is a very important next nine or so months on the planet. But Jamila Hokanson is with us. Jamila, I'm not going to ask you how old you are, but I am going to say, but you did indicate that you have 3 children. But I'm starting on that fact because it's a blessing that you earned your BS from Cornell in 1999 and your MBA from Brigham Young in 2005, and your MS in 2014 from the University of Texas at Dallas, and then your MD in 2018. So either you started when you were 3 or 4 years old in elementary school, but I'll leave that aside. But I say that as kind of like the highest testament to someone who's been in so many sectors of life, and not to mention working at Frito-Lay and Pepsi. So I'm not going to go through all of your background, but I guess what I'm saying, Jamila, is this: we're going to talk for like 50 minutes or so, and I'm going to shut up in a second and give you a chance to talk. But this could not be a one-off. I'm really hoping that we might be able to kind of resume and follow up on the discussion. I want to just start by giving a shout out to Jordan Sloshower for connecting me with you. And Jordan's been on the show twice in terms of the Wellness Center. So where would you like to begin? Your background is of extreme interest to me. Your recent involvement with psilocybin and psychiatry and health for all people certainly is of intense interest. I'm just curious what's on your heart, mind, and soul as you kind of share your journey and your passion and your product.
Yeah, sure. No, I'd love to. So I can give you a little bit of background as to tying all those pieces together and kind of what got me here, today where I'm at right now. But I grew up in a very small town in Saginaw, Michigan. There are not a lot of resources. My mom had to work 2 hours away in Detroit because the economy was so bad. And she instilled in me a desire for higher education and achievement. She worked really hard to get me into a program which was an advanced math and science academy that very few students, especially from my neighborhood, attended. I think I was the only one on my side of town that got into this program, but my mother's, was the one that drove that, not me. And because of that, I went on to, I was in the inner city kind of school system, and I actually was failing math and science.
Mm,
It was
mm,
a high number of students. Teachers were burned out. There weren't a lot of resources, and I wasn't doing well in that environment. And I remember going to my teacher at the time, getting a recommendation from her to get into this advanced math and science academy. And she said, "Why am I going to sign this? You're barely passing pre-algebra. You're only going to
mm,
fail,"
mm.
she told me. And then she said, "But you know what? I really don't care." And then she signed it. And I'm grateful she didn't care because it got me into that program. I went on from being a C student to an A+ student doing advanced calculus at the age of 12. And
Mm.
it's because I had access to a teacher that was passionate. The classrooms were smaller, they were much more empowering, and I excelled in that environment. And that is what launched me into where I'm at today. Because without that, I probably would not have graduated high school, or would have definitely been marginal and kind of stayed in the town that I was in. But I excelled in high school, and then because of that, I got into Cornell, and that really launched my life. So I really give credit to my mother,
Mm.
who had this vision of me that I did not
Hmm.
even see at the age of 12, that got me to where I'm at today. And so, speaking of democracy and women, that is kind of what has driven me today.
Indeed, indeed. Uh, I'm tempted to ask you to kind of jump to the wellness center, but I'm also tempted to ask you about psychiatry and just your journey there. I'm also tempted to ask you working with Frito-Lay and Pepsi with a Fortune 500 company. I was looking at your background. I saw Harvey Russell there. People might not know his name, but
Mhm.
we know about Martin Luther King Day. We know about Jesse Jackson, but we don't know about a lot of the business pioneers. So Harvey, in terms of marketing and just this and there are other people that are just not on our radar screen as much in terms of the business world. So I'm like tempted 10,000 ways to ask you a question, but I don't want to steer you. How would you like to talk? What would you like to address next?
Yeah, I think we could talk about the wellness center and sort of my interest there, because I am really troubled about the Black mental health crisis that's going on,
Hmm.
especially among our youth,
Hmm.
and the fact that people of color in general tend to underutilize the mental health system and treatment for a variety of reasons, which I can totally appreciate, and especially here in New Haven, having been a psychiatry resident here, to see that disparity exist. And Dr. Solskjaer and I, Jordan and I, started this along with our other co-partner, Stephanie Kilpatrick, and some other founders, have actually started this clinic in a way to hopefully start to address having access to mental health and
Hmm.
to destigmatize it
Hmm.
overall, because it is so important that we all have a basic mental health sort of support system in our life, wherever that may be. And that was the reason for the clinic. And then my interest in particularly psychedelics and psychotherapies started in residency. I actually had knew nothing about it. They don't teach psychedelics in medical school. They don't teach about it in residency. I
Hmm.
happened to be on a research unit as a resident where the clinical trial of psilocybin was being run. And I saw the transformational experience that happened in the participants that did this trial. And I'm like, what did you just give them? Because I've never seen anything work that fast. I mean, we live in a kind of pharmaceutical industry where our goal is to kind of medicate people and medicate the symptoms away so that they can continue just to be workhorses and not really really try to find meaning in life by being dependent on these medications. And drugs, they do have their place, and I'm not necessarily discounting them, but certainly for acute symptoms they are incredibly helpful. um,
Hmm.
but there is also another way. There's another way in terms of getting at the underlying root cause of what the symptoms are being attributed to, the trauma that happened, the societal microaggressions that may have made people sort of have this fearful kind of state that they're in. And psychedelics can help get to the underlying root cause, that then they can live a meaningful life.
Excellent. So position the psilocybin and psychedelics in the context of the wellness center is located where. Actually, I mean, I know where it is, but I want you to share with folks. It's almost around the corner from me. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm in the area. And and where you see in the future, will these centers kind of proliferate, or do you think it'll just be still a challenge to for the wellness centers to kind of not, if not necessarily compete, but provide services. But just so, where is it? How long have you guys been there? What's your kind of dream? What are you kind of offering at the wellness center? I really want, and this is not that our next 50 minutes is a commercial, because to me, this is so important, the services, the vision that you have from the wellness center. So if people say, "Oh, Tom, why are you just promoting the wellness center?" I'll say, I'll take that accusation, because I believe so much in what you're doing. So
Okay, no, great. Yeah, we actually are embedded in the New Haven community. So we're right in Westville is where it's located at, off of Whaley Ave. And we chose that specifically because we really wanted to be in the New Haven community. And so out of all of our options, that's the one that we decided that we wanted to make the most difference in. We started seeing our first patients, clients in March, April timeframe. And with the we do primarily ketamine-assisted psychotherapy. So that's the current legal sort of a drug that's available right now. And we use it at psychedelic levels of dosing for those who desire to journey into that space to understand a little more about what's going on with them. We also do traditional bread and butter kind of mental health treatment. We can prescribe meds, that sort of is an option. But our overall goal is to really look at the whole person and to look at all aspects of their life. And so we offer kind of a lot of community support programming that kind of helps with that. So we have yoga. We're looking at bringing in a massage therapist. We do dance. We do music. We have workshops that deal with your family systems that go back generations. So if you're working on untying traumatic knots that were passed on from you from generations that you don't even realize are there. That happens every month. And so these are really looking at all aspects of the person's life and getting them engaged in that way to really hopefully find healing. And so we are more of a holistic kind of mental health practice. And we've been steadily growing and continue to do so, which is very exciting. We do have thoughts and ideas and aspirations to expand and to ultimately have a location with like land outside that we can do some land work on and be in nature and continue to grow. And so we're very excited to kind of be in the space that we're in right now.
And the address again?
869 Whaley Avenue, New Haven, Connecticut.
And are you on the first floor or second floor, or?
We're on the second floor. Yeah. So right now, that is something that we want to be a clinic that is accessible to everybody, and there are stairs. So right now we are not handicap accessible, but we do want to eventually try to make that to where we can be that way. But there are stairs to go upstairs to the second floor.
Let's linger a little bit on what you've just said, and again, my question might just cause you to just repeat exactly what you've already said. But given your journey in terms of psychiatry and the business world and the academic world, why this initiative, this movement, this satellite, this, I won't say temple, but this innovative way of dealing with healing? Why is it important at this stage in your life for you? And what is it? Is it a trend? Do you see things are emerging? Do you think it's as a result of people being frustrated? I'm just curious about the context of how you've seen your involvement, but also your trajectory and what's brought you to Whaley Avenue at this stage in your life.
Yeah, I know. So I'll tell you more from my personal viewpoint. When I was a resident, when I'm a resident at Yale, I had to work in many different contexts, emergency departments and outpatient centers and things. I spent a significant amount of time at our state hospital system, Connecticut Mental Health Center, also treating clients there. And I just was, I don't know, frustrated. I don't know if frustrated is the right word, but concerned about the amount of medications that we are putting on people in general, but specifically people of color, and how we're just medicating their symptoms to where they are flat, not emotional, not able to have enjoyment in life. Like, these medications have really, really big side effects. And like I said, acutely, I'm totally supportive of that, because people, if they're acutely unsafe, they need medication to help them get to a place of safety. but these people were on these medications for decades. And I'm like, is there a better way? Is there a better way to live life without being subdued and medicated and like it's sedated, basically? Is there a way to do that? And so that actually began my interest in what we call integrative psychiatry, which is more looking at this holistic way of healing. And I took a course in it, really enjoyed my intro course, and asked me to the fellowship in it, integrative psychiatry, year-long fellowship in it. And it really just informed my perspective on life. And even for me personally, I mean, I'm a person that also has a mental health history. And I have found, for me personally, meaning in my life by looking at all aspects of my life, not just my symptoms. And so I think, and especially in the people of color, which is where I particularly am passionate about, this is not really taught. It's not really taught that way. You know, you have the symptom, you get taught that, oh, you should not be depressed, or you should not be this, or something's wrong with you. Or you're given a bunch of drugs to try to then, you know, fix that symptom so that you can go on and work or whatever. But then it doesn't address the other aspects of your life.
Let's stay a little bit still on the wellness center, and then I want to jump to the your MAPS involvement. And I'm not sure, were you out of Denver, by the way, this past
I was,
June?
yeah. Were you there?
No, but I
Okay.
certainly have wanted to. And then, you know, the upcoming research and in terms of accessibility, are you guys accepting insurance? How do you kind of screen people? If someone has even just listened to these last 10 or 12 minutes and say, oh, I got to reach out to Jamila right now. Is there a telephone number for them to call? What's the best way to kind of explore the client development?
Yeah, so they can definitely give us a call, leave a message, and we can get back to them. The fastest way is actually just go to our website, which is westrockwellness.com, and just fill out a little brief intake with your name and sort of what you are, you know, wanting us to help you with, and then our system will give a call back, schedule a 10-minute free consultation with myself or any of my other colleagues that are there. Just talk about sort of how can we help and what your need is. Right now, we don't take insurance because we're so small, but we do ultimately want to take insurance at some point, particularly Husky. Like, so we do have like this desire to really want, because a lot of people are on Husky who are underserved, and so we want to be able to figure out a way that we can accept Husky and be able to help people who are on that insurance. But right now it is cash pay. We do offer a sliding scale if needed, depending on the person's circumstances. And so that's more of an individual basis. But that is our current kind of practice.
Good. And just for the, I'm going to kind of go, hopefully not too left to the right to the center, and just not, I may not appear to be so focused, but people are going to correct me if I'm wrong. Is it your sense in terms of the popular communication dynamic, the words like psilocybin, LSD, peyote, magic mushrooms, I think that people are going to hear these phrases more and more and be bombarded with advocates and people that are not advocating. Is that your sense that there might be kind of a Tower of Babel confusion about what might be unfolding with this? And I'll call it the psychedelic renaissance. But I'm just curious where do you see the media, not necessarily social media, but just media in general and media and technology, kind of impacting the truth, if there is such a thing, pertaining to these new methodologies that you are so much in support of?
Yeah, I think my biggest fear with sort of the hype of psychedelics in the media right now is that it is being portrayed a little bit as a one-stop shop, a magic pill, the miracle drug, and that is not what we're seeing in clinical trials. And so I don't want people to get disappointed in the fact that it may not work for them. It really depends. And so there are some people that this is a great treatment modality for, others are not. And really the big thing is whether or not people want to get. I kind of talk about psychedelics when I have my clinical trials participants and explain it this way. Psychedelics are a door opener. They are not, they don't necessarily change anything about the person themselves. It just open the door, and they show the person what's possible if they desire that. And so you walk through this door, you explore, and then you decide, okay, this is great. I'm going to keep walking. Let me keep doing it, or I'm not. This is not something that I want. And then ultimately, after the psychedelic experience is over, the person has to decide of what they have been shown. What is it they want to actually apply to their life? And then they have to go and do the work and apply it. If they don't do the work to apply it, then it doesn't really matter. It doesn't help them. There's no really a long-term psychedelic effect from it. But they really have to then go do the work to actually make the change necessary. And so that's not being talked about in the media.
And that's the reason we're going to do one or two more follow-up shows as well. Not but talk, Jamila, just unpack a little bit, just as you were talking about how the brain works, and not that you have to give a grand round discussion or neuroscience, but again, in layman, I think people still need to hear. You have a psychiatry background, you're a doctor, so talk about the challenges, the brain, people, humanity. I mean, I hopefully you understand where I'm coming from. The challenges of being feeling whole and feeling good as a species in the context of your medical training.
Yeah. So our brains are interesting. So I'm personally, I would say that I'm a multi-dimensional person in terms of what I believe. So I believe in a spiritual aspect of life. I believe in the physical aspect of life, emotional aspect of life. And so all these components for me are actually present. And there is sickness on all of those levels. You can have spiritual sickness, you can have physical sickness, you can have emotional sickness. There may be other domains I'm not even mentioning. And in order to feel whole, these systems, I like to call them, need to be integrated and basically plugged in to the main computer, which is like, in my view, the inside of you is this person that's you, who at the core is the person that you always wanted to be, whatever that may be. And sometimes our systems get disconnected from that core through trauma, through depression, through other things that may happen to us. And so we end up ignoring this aspect of ourselves, which is really our true selves. And then trying to get caught into these other systems, which are not really our true selves. And we have to kind of plug them back in. And that's what really psychedelics, I think, are really good at doing, is helping us figure out what that core is and who that person is, and then helping us figure out what systems need to be worked on to get that plugged back in.
And after after a person has gone through perhaps the initial experience, you reference that there still is work to be done, that the doors are opening. Does a person still have someone to assist, or a counselor, or come back to you? What's kind of the path for that one should expect?
Yeah, so there are two. So right now, psychedelics, at least in Connecticut, are not legal, and so you can't really get them outside of clinical trial. So in our clinical trials, which I do run at Yale, and we are looking for participants who have OCD or depression or PTSD to be in our clinical trials.
OCD is what again?
Obsessive compulsive disorder.
Okay.
Yeah, very much extreme anxiety that leads to people doing repetitive behaviors for long periods of time.
All right. Well, and so you mentioned that you're looking for folks who participate in this particular trial. How do they? Someone might want to call you right now.
Yes. So you can certainly send me an email. It's Jamila .Hokanson@yale.edu if there's interest. We also have our main sort of I think it's like OCD psilocybin at Yale. Just look up OCD psilocybin Yale, and you'll be able to find like our main research number or email there. Either one of those locations we can get you in. We can get you at least a screening and see if you'll be a good fit. But you have to have a primary diagnosis of obsession compulsive disorder, and is a treatment that we're looking at was using psilocybin to see if that would help. We do right now 2 doses of psilocybin given about a week apart. And there is therapy that happens in the actual experience itself, where there's 2 therapists in the room. I'm can be one of the co-therapists who are there with the person. And then we meet with the person afterwards for about 1 or 2 sessions to help a little bit with integration. And so that's the current clinical trial for our obsessive compulsive disorder. We will be launching a clinical trial for depression disorder in April. That's also using psilocybin. That's a 1-dose study looking at people that have a primary diagnosis of depression. And then we will be launching another clinical trial looking at hopefully psilocybin in young adults. And so I'm looking at, I'm passionate about young adults and adolescents. And right now, all of our clinical trials require you to be an adult. So I'm hoping to get a clinical trial approved that will allow me to drop that age down to at least 16. And to be able to, for those 16-year-olds who are psychologically minded, meaning that they can make use of the things that may come up in their session. If they're not that way, then there's no point in having them actually do it. But I think there's a lot of youth, especially those who have had a lot of responsibility early on in life, which would likely benefit from this trial. And I'm passionate about it because in my mind, if we can help youth really overcome their maybe mental health challenges now, it may help them down the road to not have to fall into repeat patterns of behaviors that they may have experienced in their childhood. And so that's my theory, at least. And so I'm looking, hoping to explore that. Don't know if we'll get it approved or not, but that's certainly one of the other possibilities. And our last one that we are going to be doing is a clinical trial in healthy people right now, looking at MDMA and ketamine versus ketamine. So really exploring to see whether or not MDMA or ketamine can help basically what we call fear extinction. So ultimately we're going to do a PTSD trial. And in PTSD, there's a lot of fear. And so we're trying to see whether or not the mechanism for how MDMA works to reduce that fear, how ketamine may work to reduce that fear, and which one may be better. So we're doing it in healthy controls first, and then our goal is a small pilot. And then after that, we're going to be looking at people with trauma and having them receive MDMA or ketamine.
In general, how long will the person be participating in the trial? For a year, 6 months, 2 years?
Yeah, there's each of the clinical trials have different time horizons. On average, it's about 3 months when they are participating in it. I will say the downside of our clinical trials is that they don't get a lot of therapy with it. Like I said, really the key for psychedelics is to make use of the therapy. We do some therapy, but in my opinion, it's not nearly, what will be ideal. And so if they have access to a therapist like Westbrook Wellness, it would be great.
Indeed.
That they can make use of kind of what they have kind of
Indeed.
gained. That's sort of what I recommend. And at Westrock Wellness, that's kind of what the model that we have. And so when we use ketamine, we are generally wanting to do it with therapeutic support that we provide there, both before their ketamine experience, during their ketamine experience, and then after their ketamine experience. And the goal of the idea is to kind of make use of whatever insights they may have gained in their experience.
That's really so great. We have about 20 minutes, so as things kind of come across your mind, please share. When you can, I guess this is not a catch me kind of question, and I'm not trying to ask you to spill all of your beans, but have you ever met a Black person who's not felt somewhat depressed that could not qualify at the moment for any of these studies? Or the ways of determining the depression is there any Black person on the planet that could not qualify for some of your studies right now, could not substantiate his or her trauma, his or her degree of depression, his or her degree of feeling obsessed?
So we use standardized measures to assess like the psychiatric symptoms. So they have to basically, we'll give them these kind of surveys that we have that are standardized in the industry. That is depression survey, a trauma survey, for example, a obsession compulsive disorder survey, and they have to basically meet a certain level of that. So basically, be right now moderate to severe. So based on the results of these surveys, they'll give us like a number, and then that's the threshold that we use to see if they're eligible. Honestly, so it's not that they have to self-report that they're depressed. It's more they have to answer all these questions on these surveys, and then we can determine that.
Is it your opinion that the surveys are colorblind or biased?
Oh, absolutely. Yes,
So
absolutely.
so
Yeah.
maybe I'll rephrase my question is, should there be a separate survey for a black person in terms of determining, diagnosing his or her depression versus someone else?
Hmm.
Should
Yeah,
should there be?
no, that's very good. That's a very good point. And yes, I personally think that they'll be great. Unfortunately, we don't have a survey that looks at ethnic background as a factor. Right now, there's no like industry standard. I think there are some that are being explored, but there's nothing that is definitive. And so I think, yeah, I think I'm going to take that back and do some work and see whether or not we can maybe find something that can help maybe screen a little bit more for people of color.
And just in general, and again, I appreciate your candor and your transparency. And we've just met, and you're kind of trying to decide my way, the way that I chat with people. And quite frankly, I've been doing this since 2015 for the show, and I still amaze myself in terms of each show brings out different things in me. So bear with me. Uh, uh, the the TV celebrity that's kind of overdosed, is that it might be a blip on the screen. People might not have been paying attention to it, but it has gotten there. There seemed to be some 2 or 3 weeks later after the guy's death from the ketamine overdose. It still is in the popular culture. Do you see sometimes the media distorting the efficacy and future potential of what you're involved with?
Um, do I see? There are these case reports that tend to get sensationalized. I do, I actually read that particular one because a participant who's wanting to do ketamine was concerned about it. And when and if you look at the headline, I'm like, oh my gosh, wow, yeah, what this is? They took ketamine and then he died. But then I read the fine print of the article, and it's like, oh, he took ketamine weeks ago. It's unlikely that he died from the ketamine he got in the clinic. Is that he likely got it outside the clinic and then died, which is a totally different thing. Anything that is not prescribed by the doctor is, who knows what, there's bets are all off in terms of we're not safe or not. I don't know what they got. I don't know, what the quantity was, but there have been, at least in my, and I could be wrong about this, but at least in my experience, especially starting with our clinical trials, there have been no acute fatalities that we have had when we have dosed. So when it's done in a clinical setting, then these are very safe drugs to do. Outside of a clinical setting, I just cannot guarantee anything.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. Let's jump. We have about 10 minutes or so, 15 minutes. Let's jump to you were in Denver this past early summer.
Yeah.
You're involved with various trials, as you mentioned, and approvals for things. Let's talk about the clinical trial process, the Institute of Health process, the FDA process, because it's my opinion that it's 2024, but what you're involved with is going to be impacting whatever people are taking now for ailments, for joints. It seems to me that this psilocybin, the peyote, the marijuana, we may be taking aspirin, what we call aspirin in the past. It might be just like another aspirin or something. I'm not sure if I'm making any sense, but
No, you are. Yeah. So, so the current clinical trials are not necessarily a medical, at least the ones that we do here at Yale, are not a medicalized one, meaning that it is unlikely that when these are approved by the FDA, that you'll be able to just go to your doctor and get a prescription for psilocybin and go to your local pharmacy, buy the pill, and then take it at home. That is not the current clinical trials. Most likely, these are going to probably follow the same kind of path that a drug called Spravato follow, which is a ketamine intranasal spray drug for depression. And that is where you can only get the drug in a doctor's office, and you have to take it there. And then you have to stay there for a certain amount of time and then be cleared by the doctor to go home. So that means, though, if you think about that, there's it's going to be a huge bottleneck to even getting access to these drugs because
Mm.
they have to probably be a doctor that is certified by MAPS or whoever to actually administer the drug. So that's going to cost money, training, and whatever have you. They have to be a doctor that knows then the effects of these drugs and how they work, which is going to be a small population. Then to get the drug, it's only going to be, for example, if MAPS gets approved, it's MAPS MDMA that's approved. It's not all MDMA.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's going to be like a bottleneck there because who knows the supply of MAPS, to supply the whole United States. And then after that, then there's like this whole waiting period that the person. So I mean, this is the whole. It's not going to be this MDMA is approved, not MDMA for everybody. Go find it. So I think that's going to be something that the media does not really talk about, the challenges there. Now, getting to your other question, though, the medicalized model. So there are companies that are looking at can I remove the psychedelic effect from the psychedelic drug, and then just give it as a pill that people take once a day for the rest of their life. So in that case, if there is no psychedelic effect, and then you could, in theory, have a drug that you can get to the pharmacy that is your MDMA-like drug, but has no psychedelic effect. It mainly treats your trauma symptoms. You take it once a day, and that's it. And so there are companies that are actually starting to do research in that space, and that likely will be like I can imagine a product like that being on the market and being available to people.
Mm. 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 Talk to me, Jamila, in the context of what you've shared, and it's really been so rich. And I really appreciate your referencing the political, the system, the processes, the pros and cons of when something reaches the consumer market. But in the interim, you kind of illustrated or testified or commented earlier in the discussion about the mental health crisis that's kind of pervading all of us, or many of us, and particularly people of color. And your background, you've been involved. I was just looking at some of the racism of public health things you've been involved with, the impact of this, the community research of that, and the student-run things and health and fitness. So you've been really the holistic is kind of an understatement in terms of your approach. I'm just curious what you would suggest to folks today and Friday, January 5th, about us preserving at least a part of our sanity as we move forward in this chaotic environment.
Yeah. So I am a big mindfulness meditation person. A big is probably overstatement. These are things which I feel strongly are helpful. And I know, and even being a mother of 4 young boys, I am often fearful. Like it's just the world and the environment and sort of what's out there it kind of makes me afraid. But I cannot live my life in fear. And so I do meditation and mindfulness to try to just regulate my own nervous system, to just get a state of peace and calm, because I can only control what I can control, and I need to let go of what I cannot. And so I can do what I can now in the space that I have. And so just recognizing that, at least for me, has helped me become grounded and helps me to kind of weather sort of the challenges that may be coming or that are out there.
And as you mentioned, the Wellness Center is providing meditation, and I know you've done films and the family generational impact kind of things you're involved with. And again, if someone says, "Tom, have you been hired by Jordan and Jamila to promote the Wellness Center?" I'll say, "No, not hired. I'm working pro bono, and I'm proud to do it." And there are others. This is kind of a general question, Jamila. What kind of support, if any, do you need or would like from the community? And I'll use that term in a very general sense, not in the specific senses, or ways that I think we forget that you're on the cutting edge in my mind. My bias is pretty clear that in the innovations and sustaining humanity, for that matter. What kind of help can we, the general we, the population, the community, people, kind of provide you guys if you need any such help in that regard, in any regard?
Yeah. Oh yeah, certainly if there's a person that may benefit from our services, by all means, we'd love more people to come in to our center and kind of partner, with us in terms of our community programmings and being participants of that, or if they have an idea as to what would be helpful in the community that we can offer, that would be great. So that's one aspect. The other aspect, though, also too, is if there are any kind of more affluent members of our community who have a passion in this work, we need more trials looking at specifically people of color, psychedelics, and this holistic approach. Because if there's no clinical trials that the evidence for treatment by the FDA, and that then gets things and reimbursed by insurance if it's FDA approved. If it's not FDA approved, if it's something that is sort of on the fringe, then insurance won't reimburse.
Mhm.
And so we need more evidence-based things to be able to show insurance, the FDA and other people, this is a better, a way of being able to help improve people's lives. And so that requires money. And so there are more affluent members who like to sponsor clinical trials, at our center. We certainly are. And Jordan's definitely on the research side of our clinic. We would like to run clinical trials to really show that this works and it can really help people.
That's perfect. That's perfect. And even if we had to, you were involved with marketing. If sometimes when we no longer talk about experiments, but now clinical trials, but still, the nuances, the guinea pig thing. What kind of new phrase can we come up with? It's not really that it is a experiment, if you will, but so much of life is an experiment that I'm trying to think of a way we can just commonly say you're not really jeopardizing, you're participating in history.
Yes. And if it's and yeah, you're right. Yeah, it's history making. And for participants, they'll be free if we have it, as a clinical trial, because then we are providing a treatment to them so they can get some benefit. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It helps us to be innovators.
And I go to that as I want to jump to your background with Frito-Lay and Pepsi, just in terms of marketing, because again, when you think of people that have their MBA, often folks kind of categorize them and stereotype them as just thinking about the money and thinking about addicting people to potato chips or sugar-filled drinks. So I mean, you've moved from that one sort of addiction industry to how did that happen? I mean, I don't want to get too personal, but I'm sure I'm not the first to ask this question. And it's really the back door of the question is just as a really a high salute and compliment for you to navigate so many different systems and then to kind of now integrate them. So I'm just curious how you've integrated all these thought streams into your little brain or your big brain.
No, I am extremely grateful for my experience at the PepsiCo with Procter & Gamble and Frito-Lay, because it really helped me develop into a really strong business leader. And so having that background in medicine, for me, it's so important because we don't get taught business in medical school, not at all. And so oftentimes, and you kind of need money and business acumen to be able to really bring about change and innovation. And so I am grateful that I have that background because it allows me to be able to help our practice be sustainable and not go under, especially because this is something that's innovative. So there's not a lot of insurance reimbursements that we can currently apply for. We can apply for some, but not a lot. And so we need to be able to figure out ways to be sustainable. And so that's where my business background comes in, which I am really grateful for.
Excellent. Let's jump. Let me just take a deep breath. Do you have a question for me, or do you want to say something on another topic? I want to go to Denver for a second, possibly, but I don't want to. We have like 10 more minutes.
No, let's go to Denver.
Share with the people a little bit about Denver. And I mean, a ton of people came. You saw various thoughts. I saw one of the last days where the gentleman that's kind of the Moses of Dublin. It was
Rick Dublin, yeah.
Rick Dublin, and the closing session when some of the indigenous people came up and wanted to raise the issue of whether we just appropriating or colonizing historical methodologies that have been around for centuries. I was just curious about your perspective of that Denver experience as we move forward, because again, I'm convinced people are using the term Renaissance, whether you want to use Renaissance or whatever you want to use, this this is going to be capturing, I think it's already captured people's public imagination, the creative imagination. You see films now where people are taking drugs and talking about it. And so I'm just curious, as you want to reflect on Denver and what that means moving forward in terms of this mass media.
Yeah, this would be a whole nother show.
I believe we both agree that you're coming on the show again. Is that a fair assessment? Do we
That
have
sounds
that?
good. That's a good assessment. Yes.
Good.
So I'll give a little teaser, and then we can certainly unpack this at a later show. So my personal dismay with psychedelic movement is the commercialization of it. And the indigenous communities are right. These have been around for centuries. And if you look at how they actually practice indigenous communities, they're not saying we have this drug and we're going to sell it to you to make money. Like everybody in the community has access to the substance in the community, for example, and they only take the substance to make the community stronger. And so it's this model of the psychedelics are there in support of the individual, who are then in support of the community. And that's what it's used for. And it's used in that aspect of healing, like the community and making the community stronger. But yet we've now taken it, as we are with Western society, extracted out what we think the value is, repackaging that, and then selling it to make a profit. And that really I'm just really uncomfortable with that. And that's why at West Rock Wellness, by the way, we actually don't use the branded drug of ketamine, because it's asking $800, and it mainly is ketamine repackaged in a manner by which to sell it. We use generic ketamine, which is $1. 800 versus $1. So I would love if we can get to, hopefully, I think MAPS have a somewhat of an interest in the space, but a way to be able to make psychedelics and not have them cost $800 for the drug itself. Yeah.
Pardon, again, I mean, you're a busy person. We're all busy, so I don't want to hold you up, but we could maximize another 4 minutes, or we could say.
Yeah, actually, I want to say one more thing. I said one about this too, about the community. I also, I have an interest, and we at West Rockland have an interest too, in community building, because even though I say, hey, we are treating the individual, we really want to treat the community. And so we love it when family systems come to us, and the whole family system wants to be a part of our center. And we do have a number of cases where we are treating like the entire family system, because that's where healing occurs. And so if there is like a group or a support system that wants to come to us and figure out a way as to how we can help that entire support system be better, that will be very interesting for us. Because like I said, psychedelics historically have been given as part of a community system. And I think that's often where healing occurs, is in the community.
So if I throw out, like, just as you were talking there, Jamila, my mind went to agencies, organizations also in New Haven that might have an interest, or that you may already be collaborating with, or might be as aspiring to collaborate with. Clifford Beers, for example. I mean, I'm just curious, have you guys been having any preliminary discussions with other agencies that are involved with the healing quest?
Not necessarily. So yeah, I'd love to get your thoughts as to maybe ways that we think we could collaborate that would be a benefit to the community.
Okay. All right. Good. So I'll share some of those, and we'll
Okay.
maybe bring them into the next show.
Yeah.
30 seconds. Last word, Dr. Hokanson, share with us.
Come to West Rock Wellness. Let's all work on healing together.
You guys are located where again?
869 Whaley Ave, the second floor.
And the website?
www.westrockwellness.com.
Perfect. Jamila, thank you so much. Again, this is not a one-off. We're just beginning. We're in the embryonic stage. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to talking with you further. Appreciate your time.
Me too.
As I got another rhyme, another rhythm for y'all to listen. I'm never quitting on my mission, I'ma roll with what I'm giving. Got some ambition, this new edition, filling positions. Looking at the void in myself and feeling what's missing. Better watch the way you going, better go in the right direction. In the moment you stressing, but you gon' be counting blessings. And I know that for certain, keep on working, open curtains. Haters swerving, cause they ain't ready for your final version. Whoa. I'm never gon' give up, fall down, I just gotta get up, yeah.
You're listening to the Tom Ficklin Show on WNHH LP 103.5 FM, your home for community radio.